Oh, hello. Hey, are any of your friends dragons? Excuse me? Well, you just seem like an elder and, what? How dare you? Sorry, it's the beard. Well, at least you've noticed it. It is quite luscious. Thank you. Would you like to touch it? Yeah, honestly. Ladies, gentlemen, and monsters of all ages, when it comes to Monster Hunter, one of the most important parts of the series as a whole is the monsters themselves. Of course, the technical main character is you, the hunter, but the more time that you spend in the world, the more it feels like the creatures around you are the real main characters, the most important parts of the world as a whole. And of course, among those monsters, the most mythical and powerful are the Elder Dragons, a classification of their own that basically just means they either don't fit into any other category or are just too powerful to be considered anything else. Among them are some of the most creative monsters, some of the most destructive monsters, and just some of the coolest creatures in the series as a whole. And today it's time to remake a list that I haven't done for a long time, the top 10 Elder Dragons in all of Monster Hunter. Of course, right now you've been looking at some Adel Ka gameplay, and this is one of the biggest shames on this list as far as I'm concerned. Adel Ka will not be on it, not because I don't think she's in the top 10 if she were an Elder Dragon, but because she technically is not an Elder in the first place. That said, there are plenty of other incredible monsters that are accurately classed as Elder Dragons, so without further ado, let's dive right on into this list. Number 10. Nergigante, everyone's favorite spiky boy himself, the flagship monster of Monster Hunter World. This creature is a fantastic bit of game design. Considering he is pretty much just physical damage based, the way in which he attacks is both fun and creative, making great use of the spike mechanic and keeping you on your toes. He also has one of the more enjoyable, learnable mechanics in general with the way that his spikes grow and how you can get free knockdowns by targeting the right parts. It's just a really well made fight all around, and I think he's a great monster as a whole, really. Number 9. Inagami. That's right, Frontier has made the list. This is one of my favorite monsters in Frontier conceptually, and it is of course an Elder Dragon as well. One that has pretty near full control of the bamboo forest that is its home, able to sprout trees out of nowhere, also able to essentially create an armor over himself using the same power to almost use bamboo to like repair broken parts. It's quite a lovely concept, and the fight itself is pretty fun too. He also has access to the sleep ailment, which I think is probably the least utilized status from monsters in the series, so I tend to have a soft spot for anything that makes good use of said types of mechanics that just don't show up too often, especially on an Elder Dragon where it can be put on a creature with proper power as well. Number 8.
I'm flying with fast fish!
Crimson Glow Valstrax. Yes, specifically the variant. Don't get me wrong, original Valstrax is an incredible monster, but I feel like Crimson Glow just takes everything that he does and makes it even better. It reuses pretty much all of the base moveset, and then it also adds in a massive crazy death beam, and of course in Sunbreak it also gained a whole bunch of hovering moves that make it really cool. The fight is fun, though a little bit dangerous to take part in. Well, the first time that I saw him I thought he was a bit over the top. I've since accepted that wholeheartedly, and I just think he's fantastic. The hovering attacks he's gained in the modern era have really added him a lot in my estimation as well, making him really feel like the air superiority monster that he is. Number 7. Elatrion. One of the Black Dragons, Elatrion himself. This monster was always something that I found super interesting even before it was remade for the new world, but its inclusion in Iceborne turned the tables even further, making him an incredible fight all around. Yes, I know some people think that the Eschaton Judgment making you use elemental weapons was a silly choice, but even if you completely ignore that attack in that part of the fight, his moveset is just incredibly enjoyable to fight against. He has a particularly unique rhythm that is just a lot of fun to deal with. He has access to every element in some way, shape, or form, and he uses them all quite well. He has a lot of change-ups, and just in general I consider the fight very well designed. As for Eschaton Judgment, I'm one of the people who actually likes it, so you know, that affects my opinion here as well, obviously. Number 6.
I want to suck your blood.
Malzeno. And here we go, one of the newest additions to the Elder Dragon Club. Added in Sunbreak itself, we have the one who harnessed the power of the Curios and made it his own, the vampire himself. The design of this creature is just absolutely gorgeous from top to bottom, almost looking like he's wearing a full suit of plate armor, his wings coiling around him like classic vampire capes, and of course his big furry chest, or at least what looks like fur, but is actually just a whole load of Curios attached to him and sleeping amazing. I absolutely love that he has this. It really adds so much to him in my opinion. He introduced Blood Blight as a sadist to the series, which is a really fun debuff to deal with, but then of course it was made a part of the greater endgame of Sunbreak, so it feels a little bit less unique as a result of that, but nonetheless, it is attached to this monster more than any other for me, and that helps quite a bit. His moveset in general is just a lot of fun, and he even has a move that almost looks like teleportation, just to round it all out. Number 5. Chameleos. Now you see him, now you don't. Was he even ever here? Who knows? Chameleos is an incredibly fun Elder Dragon, and I am so happy that they brought him back in Rise. Invisibility as a mechanic is a really neat change up to the pace of most hunts, and not many monsters are able to use it in general, with him being the first to properly introduce it to the series as well. His general moveset is really fun, somewhat accurately depicting the way that a lizard walks, and his design in general is very fun. His moveset itself is quite good too. I love the different ways that he can use poison, making it feel a bit more inventive than just globs of nastiness being fired at your face. Number 4. Fatalis. You knew he had to be somewhere on this list. Fatalis in the old games was just not something I was a fan of personally, but the remake they gave him in Iceborne was just incredible. They made him look absolutely gorgeous, and they made his moveset itself quite good too. It is one of the most challenging fights in the series and has some pretty unique mechanics going on as well, but is very enjoyable from top to bottom. His lore places him as essentially the god of all monsters, and these days I am actually much more willing to accept that than I used to be. Number 3.
No balloon animals.
Yama-Kurai. Yes, that's right, the frontier origin species of Yamasukami. I always loved the concept of Yamasukami itself, a giant floating balloon of an octopus spinning and attacking with its tentacles, not necessarily a nefarious creature by any means, but simply one that feeds on soil and needs absolutely loads of it, so it ends up sucking in innocent bystanders in the process of just trying to feed itself. His original fight was alright, nothing to really write home about, but Yama-Kurai and Frontier made this way better. First off, you get to fight him on an actual normal map rather than just in a little tower arena, and his moveset is actually pretty cool too. He can suck you in, he can create trees, and even reflects different seasons with the foliage on his back, changing to autumn mode later in the fight, which just looks totally gorgeous. I have always loved the idea of this creature, he's just one of my favorites in general. Number 2. Shara Ishvalda. When it comes to Elder Dragons, there are a few that compare to this one for me. This is just one of the greatest spectacles that I've ever experienced in the series. My first game was World, so Iceborne was a decent amount of time into my overall Monster Hunter journey, and yet this monster still absolutely blew me away. When you first see him, he is this gigantic, inexplicable rock golem of a monster, totally unbelievable even by Monster Hunter standards. I had no idea what I was fighting, and then as you chip away at his armor, you eventually reveal the creature itself, this crazy tree demon thing that fights you using finely compressed air vibrations. It can make hard ground turn into quicksand, it can fire off massive beams or tiny ones. It's just an absolutely complete fight, enjoyable from the moment you start, and a massive turnaround in the middle as well. Number 1.
Jellyfish?
Namielle. And if you know me, you already knew this would be in the number 1 slot. Namielle is simply one of my favorite monsters of all time, and definitely my favorite Elder Dragon as well. A jellyfish dragon of absolute indescribable beauty, and its combat ingeniously mixes water and thunder in a really inventive and creative manner. I love just almost all of this moveset, but the way that she looks and moves is the big kicker for me here, especially on occasion when she flies around and shoves her wings down to shock the puddles, actually looking like a jellyfish floating through midair. I've said this before, but even though she was added in the expansion to Monster Hunter World, she feels like the entire Coral Highlands map was designed with her as a monster in mind. An above-ground ocean biome and a deep-sea infused and inspired dragon to rule atop it. A combination given to us by the gods themselves. And that just about does it, everyone. My personal list of the top 10 Elder Dragons in Monster Hunter. I think the Elder Dragon category has just so much going for it. There are so many great ones. What do you think about my list? Does it line up with your personal feelings, or is yours notably different? Like if you liked the video, subscribe with the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.